I'm Brolin. I'm a certified public accountant, certified fraud examiner, and the author of the Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals. Today, I want to introduce you to Truly Financial. They're a digital bank, and you can visit them at trulyfinancial.com. They are part of the Team Brolin starting lineup, which is the best of breed roster for technology solutions and partners that I use in my own accounting practice, Powerful Accounting Inc. In fact, my entire ecosystem, or playing field, if you will, is called Truly Financial Field. Here's why. Banking, the right kind of banking, is essential to everything you or your clients need to do when it comes to money. Truly Financial is changing the banking game. For starters, they're a digital bank. No more going to the bank for me. Those days are over. I can do everything online, and so can your clients. Partnering with Truly Financial helps you offer clients and their customers frictionless, collaborative banking solutions anywhere in the world. Truly Financial provides accessible, all-in-one banking that gives small businesses superpowers that were previously only available to larger businesses. When you or your clients open a Truly Financial account, you get multi-country corporate Visa cards, local and international bank accounts, and the ability to send or receive payments seamlessly. I use Truly Financial to help the business owners I work with grow without getting slowed down by high fees or big bank bureaucracy. Learn more about how Truly Financial is changing the game for accounting professionals and their clients. Be sure to check out their partner program for accounting professionals too at trulyfinancial.com. Thanks so much for listening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the DM Disruption, another episode here. Really excited to talk to Scott Scarano. Most of you probably have heard of Scott. He's out there. He's, forging the way as an entrepreneur and doing a lot of really great things. So we have him here today to talk a little bit with me about motivation and how we can he seems like he's like a little bit down today. So we're going to pick him up and drag him along and shoot for that motivation for him today for this episode. So Scott, thank you so much for joining me here today. Let's talk about Scott Scarano, otherwise known as Scotty to his friends sometimes, or Beam Me Up Scotty. We could even have that.
You could do that. Yeah.
I mean,
we got the new Sopranos that just came out. I usually draw the comparison that the higher brow people on Sopranos say soprano, and the typical everyday man is usually saying soprano. So I've noticed this in my life, and I just started noticing as I was watching that new one. It's like, I usually say soprano, soprano, tomato, tomato. But
exactly. See, so there's another good now.
I think you're highbrow though. That's where you get the Scarano, right? That's in
right.
In my accounting world, it's always Scarano. So
I love it. So Scott, talk to me. Tell me what's been going on with you. What's this kind of feeling a little down the last couple of weeks? What's happening in your world?
I think this new post-COVID going back to the world is what's getting me down. I think it's trying to marry the reality that was created during COVID that I very much enjoyed to now. I think the rubber's meeting the road and there's more going on. Everybody just wants things done now, and I got to actually get back to work. Like that's ultimately why I'm down is I can't just be absent from the firm too. Like I was enjoying, I have a podcast. I'm doing other things besides just working. I feel like a CEO now, but CEO actually has to do some work and that's what's hard,
and it's so true, right? So clients are kind of coming out of the woodwork a little bit more. And I definitely see, of course, for us as CPAs, the atmosphere of tax right now is so frustrating. Really, at the end of the day, it's frustrating mostly, I think, because the IRS, which I had a great conversation with Matt Fulton on Friday, just talking about the new tax bill and all the spending and all the stuff that's going on. And I said to him, Matt, dude, I can't even get through to the IRS for an amended return from 2 years ago. Never mind slapping on more stuff that's going to be coming down the pike here and as we go through the fall and then into January. So I can see where you're, who wants to, I call it reentry. Mm-hmm. So we have to re-enter into that mindset of madness, really a little bit, right? So I can see where that challenge is here for you, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both know that anything like you said, like 2 years ago, amended return, like anything that we're sending to the IRS, first we have to mail it in. Everybody knows that, or fax it. and it's just going to sit there. Like we're dealing with, S corp elections and things like that, and it's just, it's backing up. We don't know if they're accepting it or not, and it's just anything here and there. So what we've done at our firm, at least, is just add a line item to everybody's monthly price is IRS correspondence protection. Anything that comes up, we'll handle it. Otherwise, they're getting bills every time. That's we're not billing by
It's
time, but
crazy.
yeah, I mean, we're
Right.
just you do
It's
a lot of IRS,
crazy.
like don't you do a lot of representation and
Yeah.
different aspects of that? So from practical standpoint, you're still going to deal with long phone calls, or
Yes.
anything. So I don't know how you
Yeah.
personally handle that, or if you have people that do that when it's
Yeah, no, I for the representation, I handle 100% myself, and I use something called, and actually one of the supporters of our podcast, Call NQ,
okay.
Call ENQ, and so that gets you into like the front of the line. There's a lot of on social media. There's people who are like, "That's just not right," it's bad enough, blah blah blah. I'm like, it's
Well, you
50
pay
bucks
extra
a
for
month.
it, right?
$50 a month. I'll take that. And it puts me, I say faster, but I'll tell you what, what's really interesting too, Scott. I have a client who has like an identity protection letter that came in regarding their 2020 return. And of course, she's got a nice $25,000 refund coming. You call that 1-800 number, you can't, they actually say, due to high call volume, call back another time. We're not even going to put you on hold.
Not even, yeah, it's a courtesy. Sometimes it used to be a courtesy hang up. Now they're just not even putting anybody on hold. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, we got
Sorry,
nobody to
buddy,
take
call
your
back.
order. Yeah.
And I'm just like, "What?" I mean, it's crazy what's happening. So and it's true too, Scott, like, we just had that reentry issue. It's like, I personally enjoyed the last year and a half of not meeting with people. I'm much more productive. I'm turning returns over faster because I'm not having that 1-hour tax
Context
appointment.
shifts and just anything else. Yeah. Like you have more control over your day, I think. Like
Yeah,
when nobody's
absolutely.
interrupting you. So
Yeah, which is almost never, which, I mean, it's constant, right? So, and you think about it over the course of a day when you're having a normal work day, you're probably communicating with, okay? People say, "Oh, I've talked to this many people," but you're probably communicating with 30 to 40 to 50 people a day between text and phone calls and emails and well, thank goodness
sometimes
for
more. Sometimes
sometimes
more.
more.
Yeah.
Which is funny because one of the reasons our firm moved to Liscio, which we talked a little bit about Chris Farrell
Yeah.
before we started the episode, but you know that has given us the ability to consolidate all communications, with the exception of a phone call, but texts and emails and everything going into one place where we're not having to go to which cell phone here and look at
Well,
this
there's less
voicemail versus
misinformation. There's less duplication of
right,
communications. Like, it's
right,
just like now at our firm, it's text, call, and email when you need to tell them something or reach out to them because we don't know which ones they're going to respond to. Right. Like, and
and
it's,
that's it.
yeah,
It used to be I like from a communications perspective, used to be communications meant, all right, you send out an email and hopefully someone get back to you in the next day or two. But people and it used to be a text was almost like an emergency. Like a text was, "Hey, I need something now." But now texting is so common, I was like, "I'm not giving out my personal cell phone. I am
yeah,
not doing it. There's nothing that important. I have Lisio on my phone if I decide to open it and communicate, but
right. But
I've
it's your
decided
choice. Yeah.
I wanted to be the driver of the communication. I didn't want to necessarily be interrupted when I'm on a boat, like we were talking about before, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I wanna be present when you have 3 kids, right? So you have 3 kids. When you're with your kids, you wanna be present with your kids because like you said, we work all the time. We're workaholics of sorts, right? So we work so much that when you do get that time you wanna spend with your kids, right?
Well, I think and to me, I'm trying to marry the idea of workaholic versus wanting to help too, right? Like a lot of us always
Mhm.
say, that's what we want to do. We want to help. At the first part, I always say it's money first. Like you got to make money
Right.
first. It's about money until it's not. And then
Yep.
when it's not, then it's about, whatever it might be. And I think managing the interruptions too. Like I
Mm.
think I'm gonna call this episode the DM interruption, right? Like, and that's
Right.
usually because I'm always interrupting people, not, and that's another out of context statement. But this
It's
is
all
more,
good.
yeah, more in the sense of managing the interruptions. And I've turned off notifications for everything on my phone, which is a big deal because I
Mm.
don't even get notified if I get a phone call or anything else. So I really have to, and this is part of what brings me down is like, do I have to turn those back on now? Like,
Mm,
am I missing some calls? Am I not scheduling my day right? Or am I missing an important
right.
text or an important email? It used to be a notification for every email that came in. And a lot of people might still have that. And to me,
Oh,
by turning that off, it just creates more anxiety when I do go into the emails now. So it's like you can't win.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And I love that mentality though, what you're saying is to shut off notifications. I had a client in here on Friday and he was saying, um, I don't want to leave my phone on vibrate because he's a plumber. So he would have people, texting and calling me at 5:30 in the morning. And he's like,
yeah.
he just has a newborn baby. He's like, I can't be having that. And he's like, well, what do I do if it's like, I want, obviously, if my wife is with me, but let's say she's away or something like that, I want to be able to get that notification at 5:30 in the morning. I said, that's what favorites are for. You set up your favorites on your phone and you shut off notifications from anybody but your favorites.
Ah,
And
that's a good
so
tip.
that's a good tip. And I like that because obviously I have kids that are home with me, so I need to be able to be available for them. But you're right, the notifications stress me out. And
Yeah.
so I don't allow notifications on my phone either because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check my texts, I'm gonna check my emails, I'm gonna check my phone calls. And yeah, you know what, Scott, you might miss a thing or two. You're like me, we're both people pleasers. And I think accountants are I think most accountants are people pleasers. We're in the service industry, we're working with
At
people.
least the forward-facing ones are. The ones that wanna be put
Yes.
in the back room and just do the work,
Yeah.
they're not always people pleasers. They're usually people
Right.
displeasers, but you gotta put somebody else with them to make it work. And I usually the firm owners that I speak to, probably you as well, that we mingle with, they're the
Yeah.
front-facing ones. They're the ones that wanna talk to clients, and usually you've got somebody on your team like them too. It's
Yep.
this is the one I wanna put in front of when a client's upset or when something's going on that's important,
Yeah.
put them in front of this employee, right? And we've tried to do at the firm, and I'm, diving into those details, but it's like
Yeah.
we want to figure out, okay, what pairs of people can work well with clients. And then usually
Right.
with that pair, you can get a lot of the front end overhead and just really, most of that client facing aspect of the work that we do.
Right.
Then maybe we have an outsourced team to handle some of the lower level work, but it's like marrying those type of employees to work together as a team, sort of like in a
Yes.
pod, so to speak, in this remote
Right.
work atmosphere. Like we had an office and we don't anymore since COVID. Like we've sold our office
Right.
and now part of me too is that I've been down for past couple weeks is like, I want to go back. I want to go back to the office. It's like I had to have 3 kids and my son was out of school for 3 weeks.
Oh,
They have year round school. So everybody's on a
okay.
different schedule. 4-year-old
Yeah.
that's not in school, obviously, nothing like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So I could still hear her footsteps above me. Got my daughter in high school, and that's just a
Yep.
regular schedule, like everybody, she has the summer off, and then year-round school for my son in elementary, and that's like they get 3 weeks off, and then they go on for a quarter, and then they get another 3 weeks off. I think it's a quarter, I don't know what it is, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, we used to like that because they were on the same schedule. We go on a trip,
Sure.
Middle of the year, not that busy. We go to Disney
Right.
World, go to
Yeah,
Mexico, but
absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because yeah, I have an office on my property. So I've had an office in New Haven. It was about an hour drive from here and decided that just was too much. But you're right. I mean, the flexibility that we have been able to enjoy over the last year and a half has made things a lot better. And you're right about the forward facing person. So I have Tracy in my office. She's a gem. She's one in a million. She handles all things clients. She loves to talk to the clients. And not that I don't, because I do. I like to talk to the clients, but really at the end of the day, I got to have the head down, keyboard shuffling. We're just like bang,
yeah,
bang, bang, hitting away. And really, when you're right, when there's a conflict or an issue, she handles it so much better than I do. She really does.
yeah,
So she's able to do that. And I think having the ability to have somebody, she just works 20 hours a week, between 20 and 30, maybe in tax season, but for the most part, she just handles that stuff, and boy, it just takes a huge burden off of me,
Are
you
you seeing a
know?
split between, like, she got her head down for 20 hours and then 20 hours she's client communications, or just about 20 hours?
She works about 20 hours a week
Yeah, that's
total, and
cool.
all she
Yeah.
does is client communications.
So she
She
is that
handles
whole front facing for most of the firm. Is she more of, like, your client success specialist? What do you call her role?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Without her, she handles follow-up on client organizers, which we do all digital anyway, but,
sure.
she handles all of that. She handles, okay, I let me just make sure that this bank account's right and whatever. And so she'll just, yep, let me give him a call. She'll set all my appointments. I'm not allowed to make appointments because I just jack that all up.
I'm dealing with that
Oh,
today. Like I can't make my appointments because I'll miss them. Like, or I'll double book them.
yep.
All kinds of things. So yeah, we got
Yeah.
Calendly for that. We usually do pretty well because it does have the team approach.
Yep.
And just round robin type things. But then when it comes to me, a proposal follow up, I'll double book
Right.
that, and that's important stuff.
Right.
So
And those are important. So tell me more about like you're out there helping other CPAs moving forward, right? And helping
yeah,
them
yeah.
get past. Tell me about that. I want to hear about that.
So I don't take the motivator approach. I like the way you really framed it very well. For us, it's just very conversational, right? So
Right.
that's the podcast, and that's more of like we're the next generation. We call it the sons of CPAs, and we're the next generation of I'm not even a CPA, but like accountants and CPAs that are taking the
Sure.
charge in this industry that's been going through a lot of change and will go through a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
We've got people doing things one way that's traditionally speaking the way it's always been done, and then a lot, not a lot, but a subset of firms out there that are doing things a lot different. I think
Mm-hmm.
you're probably very acutely aware of that. There are some that just
Right.
that are just in their own bubble, and I think to a certain degree, we're all looking to change and do things better and do things better for our
Right.
clients. So it's like, what are the best practices? And nobody really has any generally best practices that somebody else doesn't do differently.
Right.
It's like everybody's doing things a little bit differently, but when you look at the traditional, so to speak, it's very much the same. Hourly billing. We're doing this. We have this partnership model, and and then I know that you in particular have a very unique approach to that partnership model, and
Right.
I think that's, that speaks to this next generation of people doing things that kind of work for our current world, right? So
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, so I have tax partners, okay? And they are, we formed this partnership. We're all our own CPAs. We all have our own clients. But we decided partnering together, splitting the cost of software, having a firm license together, having that ability to bounce things off of each other without invading or impeding on the way we want to run our practices. And so that's been a really great marriage between the 3 of us. It's been really awesome. And so you're right. I mean, I think that and I love what you do for the younger part of the profession where we really need those people desperately. And yeah, at the end of the day, they're not going to do it the way we all did it. I should say I didn't really go the traditional route myself. I never went to a big firm. I had a small partnership with a couple of CPAs that were on staff, and that's where I got my experience. But
yeah,
a lot of people, you don't have to go be owned by the man, which is what happens a lot of times in those bigger firms. Not everybody, that's not for everybody. And so having some non-traditional approaches is important,
yeah.
right?
It increases for for flexibility and just for decision making, right? Do you guys have to have a committee to make every decision, or like, because
Right.
that's a big difference in a lot of these bigger firms is
Hmm.
they don't ever change anything because they have to all agree, and a lot of times
Right.
you're not very agile if you have to, if one person is not at the helm and it's one person making the
Exactly.
decisions, and usually they shy away from that because who knows why. It's
Right.
typically done by committee, when it's a
Right.
bigger, under one umbrella. Now, do you guys
Right.
operate as different firms, or do you
Yes.
all
Well,
okay
we have a firm. So we
with
have
name?
Anderson, Brolin, and
Yeah.
Koba. Yep.
Okay.
So we have our EFIN and all of our, we have insurance together.
Sure.
Everything's all together. We just bill separate. So really, at the end of the day, we file as Anderson, Brolin, and Koba. But then when it comes to the bill, it's Powerful Accounting. So they pay
Right.
Powerful Accounting. So and so we just cut checks to pay for the like I said, the insurance and our website and that kind of stuff. And really, at the end of the
And then it
day,
just goes to your management company almost like that's
yeah,
you pay a management fee to Powerful Accounting to handle the rest of it, and then
right.
your tax return is separate. Okay, that's
That's
cool.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
that's
just,
dope.
we kind of took a different approach. And I think that again, like you said, for the son of CPAs, for those younger entrepreneur-minded CPAs who don't are going to be CPAs, who maybe don't want to take that traditional approach, is really great to have, resources such as your podcast to say, hey, what are other people doing out there that may be different that I
Yeah.
may be interested in, right?
We got to go plural with that, sons of CPAs, because it's not just me.
Sons.
I'm not just the son of a CPA. Like
You're
my
not
co-host, he's also, yeah. So we kind of we have different firms too, and we don't even
Yeah.
take that kind of approach where we don't even work together in a firm, but we see eye to eye on a lot of things. So we both said, I think in different conversations, it was just like, let's eventually do a podcast. And this year was the year we eventually did it. And we
Yeah.
have sons. We're both sons of CPAs. And then so
So fun.
the name came by accident. Actually, it was just during the third episode. It was another son of a CPA. We were all on one call, and it was just like I said it as a joke, like we're the sons of CPAs, and he was like, "That's a pretty good title."
That's
So
kind of a good name.
yeah,
And
I guess it works.
yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, it's like we have this ability, especially, and I see this a lot on social media where they're solopreneurs, like they're one
Yeah.
practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, those practitioners, the more you can band together, like you are with other CPAs or with other sons of CPAs,
Yeah.
and be able to have that collaboration is so important when you're on your own, right?
Yeah.
Because you are the one making all the decisions. You are the one, you're relying on yourself 100%. And so if you can get that collaboration and find those mentors like Scott and his co-host and other people that are coming onto his podcast, now you have some ability to relate and ability to, I'm sure that you guys answer questions. You can, send in questions on things that you are interested in learning
I
more
would love
about,
to start doing that. That's a good idea. Like that's
right?
yeah. I would like to create a type form one day and just have send listeners to
Submit a
there. That's
question.
yes,
Yeah.
submit your questions.
Yeah, and a lot of times what I find myself doing is if I'm either giving a webinar or attending a webinar, being able to watch the questions that are coming in from the audience will also help you see, hey, what are the questions people are asking out
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Not
Mm-hmm.
just on social media, but even when you're in those events to pay attention to that stuff because that's what people need. They need answers. They need answers. They need, whatever kind of support that they can get. And that's what's awesome about what you're doing, what we're doing here at DM Disruption, just trying to help and give back. And you were saying that before. I mean, that's what we do. We're people pleasers. We work a lot because we want to please a lot more than anything, right?
Yeah. And to scope it out and scope it back in, like I'm part of a franchise. So Paget Business Services is
Yep.
is traditionally speaking, it's a very old franchise.
Right.
And they're going through a lot of change management internally. And they just hired a new CEO, a little over a year ago.
Hmm.
We've got a new COO, and my office in particular has been upside down compared to the
Mm,
model and the traditional model of how things were usually done. And I was making decisions on my own. And it was like, am I doing the right thing or not? And I looked to the community outside of Paget to kind of get
right.
some guidance. And so
Sure.
now looking back in, things are changing. There's dominoes and there's different, apps being adopted. There's different processes being adopted. There's different ways of doing things that are being
Hmm.
adopted in this change management. And it's a big deal because we've always done it the same way. There's a lot of boomer franchise owners that
Right.
have been doing things the same way for 20 plus years, 25
Right.
plus years. They don't want to do anything differently. They're about to be out the door. So then, how do they pass that baton and make it easier for the next generation? So
I love that because that's exactly so in the second book that I've got going right now, we talk about succession planning. And for those people who are not changing and not adopting and not making shifts in their practice, got to start thinking about succession planning. I here's what I'm going to do. Here's my password to LastPass. All my passwords are in there, all the secret sauces, all that stuff is in there. There's no files for you to get to. Go to Smart Vault, get all your documents. Everything you need is a turnkey. Here you go. Recur 360 is our hosting solution. All you got to do
take
is
the
log in,
clients and go. Yeah,
take them.
that's
And
that's your plan. Yeah, hand the keys over. Here you go. Have fun. Yeah.
well, and talk about value of your firm when you can do something like that, as opposed to, oh, come on in. Yeah, I got 300 clients. Here's all the file cabinets.
Oh God.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have to come here and get all that. It's like, no, here, done. We're done.
Yeah.
And the value that that provides. So sometimes people think of, okay, yeah, we're gonna bring up that next generation, but let's bring them up in the way they should be brought up and without as many obstacles as possible, right? So we go through tax season. We're making notes all through tax. What was painful? What was not painful? We should change the organizer to say this, say that, and we do that throughout tax season. And then we make changes. Like this year, our big change was Lisio,
Yeah.
adding Lisio on, so we had better communications with our clients. We needed to do that. We need to streamline it. So there's always room for improvement, and that's
Yeah.
what I
We're
think.
looking at
Like you're saying.
our runway for adding lithium is eventually like right now we're actually trying to utilize the most we can out of carbon too. And the
Yes.
biggest change this tax season, or at least this past year, was adding client tasks and just that auto reminder that you have
Oh,
embedded in there. And I know you use Carbon too, but
oh
it's
yes.
like,
Oh yes.
that one thing, they think we're emailing and they're apologizing. They're saying, I will get it to it. And it's effortless for the team to have, okay, they're preparing this number of tax returns. They don't want to always have to hound anybody down. So it usually builds
Right.
up till the end. You
Yep.
turn that auto reminder on, and it seems like a very simple thing, but it's just part of the process, part of the task list. And
Yep.
that's the next one to come in, rig that up, have that go. And then now all of a sudden you coast. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like
Yeah.
it changed the mindset of everybody too. So
And it's just so and it was something that was simple to implement, right? And so
easy.
and I
Yeah.
love Ian over at Carbon. Ian's doing a phenomenal job. And yeah, we use
Oh,
Carbon
Ian's on the
and
next episode of our podcast.
there
We
we
recorded
go.
it like 2.5 months ago, but finally releasing it this next week. Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. And Ian's great. I mean, I met Ian at Intuit, right? He was the Intuit, one of my
yeah.
Intuit buddies. Just like Andy Anchetta was actually my first introduction, pretty much my first introduction to Intuit outside of Leslie Capichetti. And so, they're doing great things because
You're
they've
team green, right? That's like I'm a team blue. Like I've got my blue shirt on, but you don't see all the zero stuff behind me right now. But
you're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, and it's really just for like, and I think you agree too. Most, you choose a GL, stick with it, and that's the one that you typically are going to use at your
And
firm.
yeah.
Give or take.
And
So
that's what I tell people, like, listen, they're like, what accounting software do you use? I'm like, I use QuickBooks because it's what I know. It's
yeah,
what I'm best at, and that's what worked for me. I don't need to support any other accounting software because I'm just not an expert in anything else. And so, and I think a lot of times too, when we get to that point of acceptance, maybe where we're like, you know what? I don't want to do payroll anymore. That's what I got to a point where I was like, oh my goodness, I have, and I did
we did
payroll for
too.
years and
We
years.
did too. Yeah, it was like, okay, get as much of it on run as we can, and then Zen payroll, and then now it's
Yep.
a split between, well, Zen payroll turned to Gusto, and now it's like half of
Right.
our, actually now the majority is on Gusto, but most of the larger clients all ADP, and that's just we can't do after the fact. I'm sure you probably were doing after the fact payroll at some
Oh,
point. That's just a headache to
what an
think about.
Oh,
Yeah,
I had a client this morning. So I sent him his tax return. Any questions? He sent me this book of questions, which is fine. Some of them are pretty funny. Um, but he said in there, he's like, "Oh, so I really have to pay $600 a year to have my payroll done? Can't I just do it
that's
myself?" And I'm
cheap.
like, I said, "Bro, listen,
That's nothing. You're
you
only charging 600.
Oh,
Oh
oh, I'm
man,
not.
yeah.
It was yeah, it
Okay.
was whatever solution he was looking at. And I said, "Dude, spend the $600. Like, do it yourself. I can promise you, you might as well just cut a check to me for 10 grand for all the problems you're going to create because
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen." And so it's just a no-brainer. I didn't want to deal with deadlines anymore. I don't want to deal with notices. Like, I don't make that's for me, it's not a moneymaker. Some people make bank on
Oh
payroll, and
man.
that's
Well, now
great.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to reverse engineer. Like, okay, we went from making money on payroll. Now it's like I would much rather just hand it off to Gusto, have Gusto handle
Ah,
almost all of it, and we just support. Right now, now I'm
right.
like, we're leaving money on the table now. Like we're acting as a middleman for Gusto
Yeah,
support. It's like now let's call it, like Gusto's calling it people advisory, and now we can
right.
start branding things in this other payroll arm that we're calling,
Right.
it's more of like a showmanship. Like we're not necessarily doing their
Right.
payroll, but there's a lot
Right.
of, things that we can do to help them with their payroll.
Sure.
So
Yeah, and I do ADP, and I one of the biggest reasons, well, there's 2 reasons really. The Accountant Connect functionality, and I'm sure because 'cause you're using Run as
well,
well.
our
Um,
ADP is like our personally, like I love the new updates they just came out with, like the
oh, it's
AI that's
so
giving
good.
you ideas of what could be wrong on there and just giving you the tips there. And then
Mhm.
the notices from the IRS
Oh,
or any state all being in that queue of just seeing, and
oh, yeah,
maybe they
service
need to
request.
update their service line and update the. I just had a couple issues with that, but I love that they're in there and they're not mailing
Yeah.
them to us. Like we would get those in the mail all the
Oh,
time. Like
oh,
it was
yeah.
just back and forth. Can't keep it
Yeah.
straight. So
It's beautiful, and I love the commission, honestly, because like, you're right, you're 100% correct. We are the middleman, regardless if you're doing the payroll, you're outsourcing the payroll, whether it's ADP, Gusto, doesn't
they get a
matter.
notice. It's for their taxes, like everything. If we're
That's
doing
all
their
they think
taxes,
about, right?
they see a notice from the state. I got a notice from the IRS. They see a notice and say, "Oh, that could be payroll related. We're not really doing your payroll." Yeah, it's
Right.
a notice for my taxes, right? And they just,
Yep.
all right. Well, we're gonna have to support this now too. So
And so
That's what it
that's
turned
why
into.
and I try to tell people, like, it's we're not making money from the client on that, we're making money from ADP, and because they pay commission, it makes up for that time we do spend, I'll say, scanning and uploading that document for the
Sure,
service
sure.
request, but
Mhm.
it does compensate us for setting up payroll. The clients don't set the payroll up, we set the payroll up, meaning entering all the EINs and the withholdings and the Department of Labor and the employees and doing all
We
this
have to
stuff.
facilitate a lot of
We
it, though. We have to make
facilitate
sure
it.
it's correctly done, because if they did it on their own, they may not
Oh,
even know the first thing about it, and they're,
right.
at the level of what they're gonna get with ADP, they don't have that full 360 view of the
Right.
client, and
Yep.
what they should do, and what's their runway, and what are
Yep.
they how many employees are they gonna have, in any kind of situation, or which
Right.
states are they gonna need? So, it's,
Exactly. So
that just
that's a
yeah,
good thing that we can be in on those types of conversations. So I want to shift now, Scott. We're going to
let's
shift a little
shift.
bit.
Sure.
I want to shift. I want to hear like one of your motivation moments or a time in your career at one point where you found so and so really helped lift me up, or you in the work that you're doing when you were able to pick somebody up and help them through a situation. Give me some kind of an example of that for you.
A situation. So are we talking recent? Are we talking, because now I've just
Whenever.
scoped it out.
This could
Yeah.
be when you were 5.
Sure,
This is all
sure.
about Scott.
So a situation where somebody's really helped me out, like, kind of move forward. So
Yeah.
I think to a certain degree, obviously, it's my wife, right? That's the
Okay.
first thing that's going to come to mind, and I think that she saved me as a person. Like, I went,
Oh,
like, I got a pretty deep area to look at, but it's like I went through some issues in college.
sure.
I was at UNC, I was at Carolina. I I started doing things that I may not be proud of now, got into trouble with the law, got kicked
Yeah.
out of Carolina, and then ended up, and really, just to be clear, I don't shy away from talking about it, but I was selling drugs. That's all it was. Like,
Okay.
and
Hey,
so I'm in
okay.
school, I
Hey, you
at
were an
first
entrepreneur in
I
college. I get
was, I
it.
was I was actually doing 3 price options too. It was
Oh
a
my
lot of
goodness.
threading the needle of what we do now and giving value, actually
There
delivering
you
value.
go.
But,
I love it.
again, not to, that's a dark
No, I
side.
know. I
To
know.
a certain degree, though, it's like, so then I end up going from there to, I'm working at 3 restaurants. I'm finishing up school on my own. I'm, like, trying to pay off other debts, and just I was in a I was in a place where it's like, okay, now I'm trying to reroute things back to the track that they were on. And then I find her. She didn't even speak any English at the time, too. We were working
Wow.
together, and we just worked very well together. I was one of the restaurants. I was working at Maggiano's, and it was just a very good relationship. And so, this speaks to somebody being of assistance and helping without even the language too. It was just,
Wow.
we had this connection, and it went deeper than just talking about the weather or talking about what was going on. We did communicate and we did talk. She knew enough English. I knew enough Spanish. We, and that's sort of what was the foundation of our relationship still. And that was like 17 years ago. So,
That's awesome.
and that's to, metaphorically, I guess, well, or however you want to, I don't think it's a metaphor, but it's like
Yeah.
the way that our relationship did, start was, she is a helper. She helps people. And that's what she does. And that's how it's always been in our life. And I think that she brings out the better in me too,
Mm,
and to a lot of degrees. Like, it was before that, it was always me trying to help myself. And now
sure.
I see, I have a lot more empathy, and I can, really relate to anybody in any situation because of,
Right.
what she's brought, that other level of. So I think that changed my whole life, obviously, and, to
Right.
all other aspects of it. And I didn't really plan on talking about that, but you asked, and then I brought it up. Yeah. So
I love
that
that. And
was,
I
yeah.
love that. And I think there just does come a time in everyone's life at some point where you're like, man, am I really like doing what I should be doing, or whatever the case may be? And you have that person, whoever it is, that just comes into your life and like changes you for the better, right? And sometimes that's hard. It's hard to accept that help, right? Because you're wanting to help yourself. You're like, I got this. I'm in control. I'm A type personality. I'm the boss of everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, it
And
took me
right,
falling off of all that to be able to accept help, right? Like, at that point, and I know that mindset too. Like, that was the mindset that I always had. I don't need anybody's
yeah,
help. I know everything.
yeah,
But I kind of forced myself into that role of, I
right,
need assistance anywhere I can get. And I think that
right.
that kind of helped moving forward too.
That's
But
awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, as you watch her with your kids, like, that's probably one of the most beautiful moments in your life is to watch your significant other, for you, it's your wife, to, be caring for those kids. And we were kind of joking before about how they even live this long, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you give her all the credit, but I'm sure that um, I'm sure that you are showing your children, which I think is part of what my role was in our family, just like you as the breadwinners and things like that, that they watch your work ethic and they
Yeah.
watch your commitment, right?
It's actions, right? Like, I can't really speak to what I tell them to do, but they can model their behaviors off of mine, and I think I'm a good enough example
Right.
and example of somebody who maybe learned from past mistakes or somebody who
Right.
currently is trying to do the right thing in most cases, right? And
Right.
so I think I see that in my daughter. She has a really good work ethic, and she worked really hard. She's studying at night, and most people might say, ease up on the study or things like that, but she,
She loves it.
exactly, and it's not just that she loves it, she likes the reward too. She's showing us her grades, and she's, like, pretty proud of herself there, and it's like, you should be very proud of yourself because you worked hard,
That's
to get
right.
those grades. So, and we're not even telling her, like, you have to do your work or trying to stay on top
Right.
of any of that. We're just letting it go,
Right.
and I think it's the actions, right? It's
Sure.
that they model off of that behavior. So, yeah, I mean,
I love that.
I think, I got a lot to be grateful for. And
Sure.
sometimes when I feel down, I got to kind of think of what are the good things that are going on and everything too. So
Yep. Yeah, and it's that glass half full mentality, and it's not every day. The glass is not half full every day.
sometimes it's overflowing, right? Like,
Sometimes you're like, "Whoa, like
yeah,
what is going on?" But
or
really at
it's
the end of the
fully
day,
empty. Yeah. And you need something to drop in there, somebody else to drop some stuff in there. Yeah.
somebody throw
So,
something in my glass, I need it,
yeah,
right? So, and
I
that's
need a
that's really
refill.
what it's about. Yep, and that's what it's about, is all of us being able to help each other and help others through the journey of life and the journey of, the accounting industry
Ooh, let
for
me drive
us,
this
right?
metaphor too, like the refill and pouring into the glass. So she was bussing the tables, and one thing that was really, just impressed me was there was never any other busser at any other restaurant that would actually make sure that the table was, without them saying anything,
Right.
waters were always full, plates that were empty were always clear, and it was
Yep.
just anticipating the needs of the and
Somebody.
that and it always got better tips when I was working with her too. So it was
Yep.
like, we both worked very well together to anticipate that without a lot of talking and a lot
Yep.
of no excuses. There's never an excuse for anything if you're just doing it.
Right.
So
That's right.
I think
That's
that's
right.
that's with our life too. To a certain
And I
degree,
love
it's like,
that.
when the glass is half full, somebody else could fill it up, or you can get up and fill it up yourself. But if you're at a
Yep.
restaurant, you're not expecting to get up and fill it up yourself. So somebody else is
Exactly.
going to need to fill
Exactly.
that up. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Scott, listen, we try to keep these to about 20 minutes, keeps people
Oh,
happy that way, but
we doubled
I'll
up
tell
on that. Yeah.
no, you're awesome. This was a great conversation, and just keep on doing what you're doing, Scott, and go out there, go hug your kids, hug your wife, and stay positive and keep on helping people. And I want to thank you on behalf of those that you have helped and those that you will help, because really at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And I appreciate you, and thanks again for coming. Any last words? Anything you want to throw out there?
Oh, no, I just wanna, work on, you know, work on being more like you on this, because I think I could, I don't really take that mindset approach of really helping people. It's just more of the
Yeah.
getting the conversation started, but then, what kind of other advice could be given without interruptions. So it's like I
Right.
brought up earlier, the DM disruption, and ours is the sun's interruption, because that's all I do
I
is
love it.
interrupt people on the podcast. I gotta work on that, so
That's
cool.
all good, Scott. Well, you're doing great things, and thanks again. We appreciate you coming. Thanks everybody for listening to the DM Disruption. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for
Take care.
listening.